Good evening, everybody watching at home and in the gallery. Welcome to the June 2019 Manitowoc County Board of Supervisors meeting. First up will be an invocation by myself, followed by a pledge of allegiance to the flag. If everybody rise, please. Heavenly Father, as the summer season approaches and we welcome the warmth, we thank you for bringing us together here one more time in the performance of our service to our county. Grant us health to perform our duties, insight to enable us to work diligently together, and a measure of creativity so we may look from all angles and produce innovations that will forward our county. As always, Lord, thank you for your gifts to us, for your presence and your peace. May you use those thoughts to the best of our ability in the service of Manitowoc County. In Christ's name we pray, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call is going around. 23 members are present. Supervisors Williams and Kavanaugh are excused for this evening. Next up will be consideration and correction of our minutes from our May 21st, 2019 County Board meeting. Motion by Supervisor Holzbach, second by Supervisor Benke to approve the minutes. Any discussion on the motion? See none. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Additions or deletions? There's none. Just quickly, and I apologize for this too, as I approved the agenda and I missed it, but we forgot to put the Highway Committee on here for committee reports. So I talked with Corp Counsel Pierre Conrad, Supervisor Benke, on their announcements. If you just want to quickly say, if you want to say something, it's fine. I apologize profusely for that, especially. Okay. As long as the potholes are filled, correct? Okay. I'll make sure our next month that pothole on my count was filled. So, all right. Next up, reports to county supervisors, officers, and department directors. We have Comptroller Todd Reckelberg and external auditors from, I want to say Baird, but I always forget their name now because they've changed. But Brian Grunwald is there. Report on 2018 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report and the 2018 audit. Gentlemen, you take it away.
Thank you, Chairman. On your desk tonight, you should have two documents. One is the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. It's in a nice little binder. And the second one is it says revised draft, which Brian will explain in a minute, the management consultant report. As you know, Brian was here last year. He replaced Mike Konechny when they were Schenck. As of January 1st of this year, Schenck merged with CLA, which stands for Clifton, Larson, and Allen, LLP. And so they're merged, and now we'll refer to Schenck as CLA, I guess. So, Brian?
All right, thank you for having me here this evening. I just want to highlight that I did meet with the Finance Committee. We spent a little bit more time walking through the two documents, tried to go through any questions that you have there. Certainly, if anyone has any questions here, we'd be more than happy to try to answer those questions. For purposes of the discussion with the full board, just a few brief highlights. In addition to the review that the county goes through and your comprehensive annual financial report goes through from us as Clifton Larson Allen, you also voluntarily submit your report to the General Finance Officers Association. So on page 6 of your comprehensive annual financial report, there's a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting. By being eligible for that, you're not only including the required statements, you're also including additional introductory and statistical information. So I just want to recognize the county for receiving that award. It's a nice award. It's actually the 27th year that you've received that. So that's a very, very impressive streak. So wanted to point that out or highlight that. Then as you step back and reflect on your comprehensive annual financial report, I would suggest that you review and read through that management discussion and analysis section. That is a narrative section. It provides a nice overview of the financial statements. So I'd suggest you read that at some point too. And then a few brief highlights. So in terms of your financial highlights, certainly one of the things that we focus on is your general fund. We look at the reserves within that general fund, how much is left, fund balance at the end of the year. I just want to point out that from a fund balance perspective, we always focus on your unassigned fund balance. That's the amount that you have available as you move forward into future years. Your unassigned fund balance at the end of 2018 was $1,375,000 versus $638 at the end of 2017. So a real strong increase of over $700,000 in your unassigned general fund balance. So certainly that is very strong financially. We also talk about, and I went through this with the committee, some of your larger funds. One that really sticks out to me is your Human Services Committee and fund. In the last couple of years, we have talked about that fund from a fund balance perspective. They were in a deficit at the end of 2017, deficit of $214,000. They had a real strong year from both a revenue and expense perspective. Revenues up, controlling those expenses. And as a result, you actually have a positive fund balance of $184,000. So a $398,000 increase in your human services fund balance. So I think that's noteworthy. Another one of your funds that I like to focus on is the highway fund. And again, we did go through this in more detail with the committee, but your highway department had a very strong year. Your revenues were up. You're very busy. We look at, I'm going to refer to as your equipment cost pool. If you think of the nature of that operation, it's very intensive with regards to capital. Trucks are expensive, right? So we look at the equipment that they have, how that equipment is used, and trying to make sure that you have equipment that is being utilized, not that you have equipment that isn't and costing you money. So from an equipment cost pool perspective, again, a very strong year. You generated income from that cost pool of $192,000. Again, shows that you're managing your equipment very well, and again, that you're busy. Then also from a cash flow perspective, we also look at that operation to see how much cash they have. At the end of 2018, they ended the year with over $1.1 million of cash. That's actually up from $673,000 at the end of 2017. So a strong increase in your cash balance, as well as being, busy and maintaining that equipment cost pool. So great year for highway as well. And then I also want to focus on, so that kind of walks you through some of your more major funds, your larger funds. Then I also want to step back and talk about your debt. So when county boards and finance committees ask, what are the things we should focus on financially? It starts with your general fund, and then we also like to talk about your debt. If you can just flip to page 58 in your comprehensive annual financial report. Let me know if you want me to pause. I'm just going to try to gauge the audience here. It seems like most people are with me. At the bottom of page 58, there's a table labeled as long-term obligations. And this table walks you through the activity for the year. If you look at the columns, it starts out with your beginning balance at the beginning of the year, the line labeled general obligation debt and then bonds. You had 25.5 million of debt outstanding at the beginning of the year. You did issue 1.5 million during the year. The retired column is the amount of principal that you repaid during the year. So you repaid 1.9 million, leaving you with an ending balance of 25.1 million. And that due within 1 year column is the amount of principal that you are scheduled to repay based on the debt agreements you had in place at the end of the year. You're scheduled to repay 2.5 million of principal during 2019. Okay, so that gives you a snapshot of what happened during the year. Then if you jump ahead to page 59, the bottom portion of page 59 is labeled as the legal margin for new debt. So there's statutory limits on how much debt you can take out, and that's based on the amount of equalized value that's within the county. So the equalized value of the general obligation debt limit based on that statutory limit is $271 million. Compare that to your actual debt balance of $25.1 million. So you're very low in comparison to the statutory debt limit. From a percentage standpoint, that's about 9% of the statutory debt limit. Clifton Larson Allen works with 45 counties throughout the state. I looked at the counties on this portion of the state and the ones that I work with. I'd say you're doing very well from a percent. When you look at that percentage, in comparison to the other counties. You know, there are a couple of your peers and neighbors here that are in that 8 to 9% range, but most of them are in the 10, 12, 14, even up to 16% in terms of that statutory debt limit. So you're doing very well in terms of maintaining your debt, managing your debt. So, okay, so just want to back up. Again, you've got the award, that's great, and then financially doing a good job with your fund balance as well as human services, highway fund, and your debt. So those are kind of the highlights financially. If anyone else has any other questions or other topics you'd like me to talk about.
Okay, Supervisor, hold on, Supervisor Zimmer, you have to be recognized. There you go, you're all set.
Thank you, sir. Did you say we're doing very well in comparison to what other entities?
So I was just looking at, are you referring to the debt?
Yes,
So
debt
I
wise.
was just comparing to other counties that are geographically located on this part of the state.
Okay, like Sheboygan, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, they're one of the ones that I looked at. I
Uh-huh.
looked at 10 counties, just around here.
In this area,
Exactly. Yep.
and in comparison, we're doing quite well.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. You know, and I was at 9% of the statutory limit.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Supervisor Zimmer, any other questions for Brian or Todd for that matter at this time? All right, thank you very much, Brian, appreciate it very much. And thank you as well, Todd.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to public comment, and we got two presentations under public comment first. First up will be the Manitowoc County Historical Society Executive Director Amy Meyer with the presentation on the Manitowoc County Historical Society. Amy, welcome home in a sense, or welcome back. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for letting me share a few minutes of your time tonight. It certainly is odd to be back home. For those of you who don't know, the Historical Society made our home here for about 10 years, and it's amazing to see the changes that have been made and really honor our volunteers' commitment to seeing not only this building preserved, but our local history as well. For those of you who don't know, my name is Amy Meyer, and I'm the Executive Director of the Manitowoc County Historical Society. And as our county history has developed over the past few years, we are honored tonight to share not only our history with you, but also what we are doing to make our County Historical Society a stronger unit. So I'll start off tonight by sharing a video of our organization.
I choose to bring my grandchildren out here because I want them to experience what life was like before all our technology that we have, our computers and TVs and smartphones and all of that, and to experience what their ancestors went through, because they came here to Wisconsin and had to set up a home and barns, and they had very little to work with. So I want them to experience that.
We've been coming out here for quite a few years now. My favorite part is probably the schoolhouse. You can sit down at the desks, and if you've read any historical books like Little House on the Prairie, then you even know how school went.
We have a church, we have a school, we have a blacksmith shop, a harness shop, dance hall, a bank, a lawyer office. You walk through the building and you can tell to yourself, well, how did they do that? How did they do that? You can learn a lot of that right here in the village and pass it on to your children and your grandchildren.
I'm given the task of teaching kids. I teach them why they're learning about history, because we can't go forward unless we look at what we've done previous to the time. And I tell them, I've reached the age where I'm not going to make too much history anymore, but you guys are.
I love teaching the kids some of the skills and some of the things that they do and the games that they used to play. I love doing that with the children. It fills my heart, and I know I can see the parents and teachers, how they appreciate too what we do with the children. Making a reality, not just something they read or see on the video.
We're proud of this village. I really get a good feeling here.
I love Pinecrest, you know I do.
It's just a fun place to be.
So that's a really short snippet about what the Manitowoc County Historical Society is all about. We are a volunteer-run organization that stems back over 100 years. When you look at the Manitowoc County Historical Society, of course, we always like to talk about historic dates and buildings, but really what we're talking about is people. And I'm sure each one of you has a museum experience. Either you were dragged to the museum as a young child, kicking and screaming, not even wanting to go, or you really enjoyed your time there. And I hope you have a wonderful experience too, and a story of visiting our own Manitowoc County Historical Society locally. But when we talk about the people, we are honored as a county to be one of the first historical societies in the state of Wisconsin. It's a really big honor that we're able to continually share with people from throughout the state. Our roots date back to right around the Civil War. There was a group of citizens that attempted to start the Manitowoc County Historical Society following the conclusion of that war effort because they didn't want to see our county's Civil War heritage be forgotten. It took them a few attempts to get things rolling and a few things figured out, but in 1906, the Manitowoc County Historical Society was created, and since then has become the strong unit that we're familiar with today. Going from our Civil War heritage to throughout the years of Manitowoc County's history, we are a strong unit built by volunteers. We have a staff of 1.5 people and an army of about 200 volunteers that do everything at our museum, from painting to doing research requests, and it really shows. Our community of Manitowoc County embraces our local history, and we're a proud recipient of that. At the Manitowoc County Historical Society, we have what most people know about us with Pinecrest Historical Village, which was actually started 50 years ago in November. So we are embarking on our 50th anniversary. When you look at that museum, it started as a field and a dream. The first building was moved out there almost 50 years ago, and since we have added 34 additional structures that detail our local history. All of that is funded by local citizens who want to see our local history kept up, preserved, and additionally shared with people from throughout the country and the world. We have a great honor coming to us this summer that I'd like to share and extend an invitation for you to join us. The Manitowoc County Historical Society was chosen as the Reuben Gold Thwaite Trophy Award winner from the Wisconsin State Historical Society. This is the top county historical society for the state of Wisconsin. And our board of directors, volunteers, and staff, we are incredibly honored to receive this award and really want to celebrate with our community. Not only is this an incredible honor, we get a trophy to display for a year, but also as we're celebrating our 50th anniversary, it's something that we can be proud of, not only for the past 50 years of the work that Pinecrest has come to develop, the Heritage Center building, the restoration of this project here, and what we hope to continue as we move forward in our next 50, 100 years and beyond that. There are some materials that I hope you can take some time to browse through. The Manitowoc County Historical Society, we put about 12,000 visitors through annually, and we have a really strong education program. We are educating students from throughout the state of Wisconsin through our homeschool programs and also our youth tour experiences. But there's also opportunities for you to get involved as well, either as a member, a volunteer, or coming out. We have a Civil War program, our Buffalo Bill. You can shoot right along with Annie Oakley or hop on a threshing machine during our annual Mid-Lakes Threshery. There's something for everyone to embrace our local history. If you have roots in the area, I encourage you to take part in our research library. We complete over 200 research requests annually from people from throughout the globe. And if you are a resident of Manitowoc County, longtime resident, or have roots or attended a Manitowoc County rural school, we may just have you in our files as well. So you never know what you could scrounge up in our museum. Again, I encourage you to support our local history. It's a wonderful organization that was founded by volunteers, continues to be maintained by volunteers, and it takes a community to support our community's history. So I encourage you to embrace your own history, write down your memoirs, record what you're doing as a community leader today, so that someday that could become part of our archives as well. And you never know, it's always history that's building upon each other. So thank you for your support and your leadership for Manitowoc County. And again, I hope you can join us in celebrating the journey that the Manitowoc County Historical Society has taken and the honor that the Wisconsin Historical Society will share with us later on this summer. Thank you.
And thank you, Amy, and your board of directors as well. And it's very appreciative. If anybody knows me well enough, I love history. It was one of my favorite things in high school and through college and stuff. And I will always back history, for lack of a better term. So thank you very much. If you could, if you have a couple extra flyers, I know Jason, you passed them out. We didn't get them up here. If you just want to leave them on the table back there for other people that are interested, that'd be great. Thank you very much. Supervisor Mink, you had a question or a comment?
Comment real quick. Hey, I just want to say that I love what you guys do. I have a degree in history myself. I was educated here. I took 7 classes with Trask, including Wisconsin history, and it's amazing that Manitowoc supplied the Union Army with 100 soldiers with only 24 returning. It was actually a very amazing thing. Also, completed my degree just down the street at Lawrence. So I love what you guys do. I take my son there every year when I bring him up here, and just keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Supervisor Mink. All right, moving along. We next have Jim Kettler from Lakeshore Natural Resource Partnership, a presentation on Phragmites education. And we also have Tom Ward, former county employee of Soil and Water. Welcome back as well.
Here, let me just pass. Well, thanks for making some time for us today. We did meet with the Highway Committee just last week, and so this is kind of building on that presentation. My name is Jim Kettler. I'm the Executive Director of the Lakeshore Natural Resource Partnership, and I brought our team up here because this project wouldn't have happened without building a really strong team of contractors, local volunteers, as well as town governments, private landowners, what have you. So Jim mentioned that Tom Ward. Tom is our local liaison. He's working with town governments, working with landowners and getting permission. We've mapped every road in the county, and Tom has been a big part of that. And then Melissa Kern is a representative from Stantec Consulting Services. They're the contractor that's been doing most of the Phragmites treatment. She manages the crews in the field. So tonight I just want to do a quick overview of the project. We're going to talk a little bit more about our treatment plans for 2019 to 2021. We're going to talk very briefly about noxious weed ordinances. And then the really take-home message tonight is this question of sustained funding once our grant dollars run out. And so, Tom, I'm going to let you talk about it.
Need to talk about what it is and why we're so aggressive with it, but it's a very aggressive plant. It came to us via the I-43 construction in Green Bay, got tracked down on the interstate, finally spread out to all the townships. The real problem is it's got a rhizome system that just spreads. If anybody's been up to the Tower Bridge in Green Bay, you know how bad it can get. Just look down there, that whole marsh. So any wetland where there's cattails or wet areas is going to be soon occupied by Phragmites. So we're at a stage that we can do something about it. So it displaces the habitat for a lot of wildlife. It blocks our drainage systems. On a road system, it blocks the view corridor. And lastly, it's a real fire hazard. This stuff is still standing as we speak. It's brown, it's dry, and in the wintertime or late summer, could easily catch fire. So again, if you drive over the Tower Bridge and you see all those oil tankers sitting out in the middle of a Phragmites patch, you could imagine what would happen if that thing got lit up. So it could have the potential of a prairie fire if it was caught.
And so with that in mind, we've been very successful in securing a lot of grant funding, and I'm just going to go through those really quick. We've literally gotten 3 phases of state funding from the DNR. The first phase focused right along the Lake Michigan shoreline, and we were able to get almost 95% participation of both public and private landowners along the Lake Michigan shoreline. Lake Michigan, the lake levels have made treatment a little bit difficult. In fact, we had to use a John boat to kind of go in and out and get to those bluffs, but we were very successful. Phase 2 then looked at the eastern townships, especially around the I-43 corridor. It's pretty well documented that that's where Phragmites came into the county, is during the construction of I-43. Our farm, in fact, lost 9 acres to I-43 corridor, and we were right at the county line road where our area was literally served by the Sheboygan County crews that came from Milwaukee, and literally the Phragmites came from Green Bay. Tom mentioned around the Tower Bridge, but that's pretty well documented that that was the source of Phragmites here in the county. And then we were just awarded phase 3 this past spring, and that'll look at the western townships. So that makes the entire county covered with state funding. But we've also been able to obtain some pretty significant federal funding, Great Lakes Restoration Initiative grant that'll run out at the end of this year. But that allowed us to do a lot more education and outreach, engage town governments. We've been engaging every town government in the county for the last 2 years. And with some earlier grants, our total investment to date is about $1.2 million in the county. And we do have one pending grant that we got invited to submit a final proposal for, and that's to sustain our Great Lakes. We'll know in August, I think, correct? Whether or not we got that, but we did have a field site visit with their grant keeper. We're pretty confident that that funding will come through as well. And so that'll give us another layer of revegetation, education, and treatment for 2 years. And I'm going to just let Melissa talk a little bit about what we've been doing for the last couple of years.
So we started initially with some smaller treatment sites, mostly along the Little Manitowoc River, and it was primarily on city park property, and that was about 2013 to 2015. So that was really the first project that we started in Manitowoc County, and we realized, you know, there's a great need across the county to do a lot more. So back in 2016-17, we drafted the state's first county-wide invasive species control plan that was specific to Phragmites. So no other county was doing this. It was meant to be sort of comprehensive countywide. The DNR approved it, and that was the baseline documentation that we needed in order to apply for some of the grants, the state-funded grants that Jim was mentioning. So that happened around 2017, and then we, as Jim mentioned, started on the eastern side on the lake shore and started to move west all the way through the county. So our initial treatments, again, Little Manitowoc River, we moved to the Lake Michigan shoreline. Then we moved to what we're calling the near lake shore townships. And then now with the state funding that we just received for phase 3 plus the federal funding, we are treating countywide. This is by far the most comprehensive Phragmites control project in the state of Wisconsin. So you guys should feel pretty lucky that your residents have been able to take advantage of this opportunity. When we did start expanding westward, we did engage all of the townships and the county highway department as we needed them as project partners. So we learned pretty quickly that when we were trying to do the outreach to landowners, if they weren't familiar with LNRP, they didn't know about the program, if we would just send them a letter, a lot of people thought it was junk mail. So it was really important that we engaged the towns. We actually asked the towns to send out a letter on our behalf mentioning this program and asking landowners to participate. So we thought that added a lot of validity. And the county highway department, when they had funding available for the last couple years, they did participate in some of the control efforts within their jurisdiction. So that included the county highways. So they were a great partner, and we hope to continue that. And I should mention this model, this countywide model is really, we started here in Manitowoc County, and we are now expanding into adjacent counties. Sheboygan is our first expansion, and then we will likely start expanding westward into Calumet County, maybe Kewaunee County. We're not quite sure how we feel about Brown County yet. But it's been such a successful model, and I just wanted to compare the difference between Manitowoc and Sheboygan County. So in Manitowoc County, we are actively tracking and treating about 1,000 acres of Phragmites across all of the county. In comparison, Sheboygan County is only about 200. Sheboygan County is a little bit smaller, but you can see, you know, definitely you guys are closer to Brown County, closer to sort of the epicenter of Phragmites. And so there's just quite a difference in scale. So it's been a pretty significant effort to do outreach and education with all of the landowners. And right now we have about 2,450 individual parcels that we have to coordinate with, and it's been years actually, and we're still trying to get some landowners signed up. So we now have about 70% participation, and we have treated about 1,690 different parcels over the course of the last 3 to 4 years. We still have about 30% that we're trying to actively get permission to treat. And we did just this year, we have a new website that's listed at the bottom of the screen here, and it's also on the brochure that was passed out where you can, it's a live web map where you guys, individual landowners, can see where we have Phragmites mapped. They can see which parcels we have signed up, so landowners can see if their neighbor is signed up, and you can actually track our treatment throughout the year. The polygons will change colors when they've been treated, so it's a great way to interact with landowners and keep them up to date. And we when we worked with the county, they did allocate $10,000 to do their right-of-way treatment, and the townships even allocated about $30,000 between all 18 townships in Manitowoc County. So we are getting financial support as well from the townships. I'll let Tom talk about noxious weed orange.
Part of the issue here now is the long-term maintenance. With any invasive species, a lot of people throw in a towel and say, well, this is a battle we can't win. Given the expenditures that we've expended and the efforts and energy, we really have to assure ourselves that we're going to continue. And that's what many of the grantors look at. How are you going to make sure you keep at it? We expect the Phragmites will come back, and we really now are working on this year trying to get all these sites treated so there's not a seed source or a plant source. So we've encouraged the towns to include Phragmites on their noxious weed list. And that's a project that we're working on right now this year to see if they can add that, because the plants that are on the noxious weed list, frankly, don't hardly exist in Manitowoc County, but this plant does. So that would be a way to get compliance down the road. But this is a good example. This photo shows Phragmites migrating off the road right away into a wetland adjoining a river system. And then that's how it spreads from there. Once it gets into that wetland, it just takes off and goes beyond. And then the ice carries it downstream. That's how we feel it got out to the lakefront. Okay. So the project that we've worked on, we started working with the towns, and the towns have authority to create funds, non-lapsing funds that can be put into a coffer for a long-term maintenance system. And so the towns at their annual meetings this year had this up for discussion, and a number of them have included it. They have to have a permission or a motion made at their annual meeting by their citizens to do it. So our whole goal here is to raise about $95,000. If each township gave $2,500, we would have $45,000. And municipal governments, cities and villages, we could raise another $10,000. And if private landowners that we're working with gave us $25 a piece, we would have $35,000. So we look at this as a very doable operation, and then along with the county doing their part to maintain the right-of-ways both by the interstate, state system, and the county trunks, we'll have a complete system.
And then this next slide is really why we're here tonight. 2 years ago, the county did authorize $10,000 for the highway department, and we'd like to return to that ask again this year as we enter that budget negotiation later this fall. Mark, we've met with Mark Olson, the highway commissioner. He's going to work with us in putting together some budget numbers. I think he's very supportive of this allocation. And so we're really asking the county board to consider this as you approach your budget negotiations later this year. We should mention that we have, in fact, they just started this week, I think, looking at low-cost treatment alternatives, again, after the grants run out. We've kind of contracted with Fox Valley Technical College and are using interns because we feel that there's going to be just a lot of spot treatments. It's not going to need a lot of equipment. It's not going to need a big boom. It's just going to need a backpack sprayer. And so instead of using a consultant, we're looking at using interns that are very, very cost effective compared to what a contractor would cost. And so they just started this year. We're looking at areas that have been treated either 2 or 3 years. Typically, you just find a sprig or two that are popping up. Well, we don't need a whole crew there to take care of that. A single person with a backpack sprayer would be very effective. So that's our presentation for tonight. We'd be happy to address any questions.
Any questions? Yes, we'll start with Supervisor Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You mentioned during your presentation that it derived from Tower Bridge. I think all three of you brought it up to like the Lower Bay Beach area. You mentioned expanding into Sheboygan, and then you're expanding into the western part of Manitowoc County. What is being done in Green Bay or Brown County in the Tower Bridge area that you said everything is derived from on the I-43 corridor? What are they doing there?
That's a really good question. Mary Gansberg from the DNR and I had a conversation a few weeks ago. She's very frustrated. If you travel from Green Bay to Sturgeon Bay on Highway 57, you'll see loads of it. Kewaunee County Bay Lake Regional Planning Commission got a very similar GLRI grant that we got. So Kewaunee County is being treated, and really we're trying to put pressure. There is a kind of a collaborative of different folks working on invasive species that meets at UW Green Bay. It really is about resource allocation. We have very little power in Brown County that's not in our service area, but we're trying to keep that pressure on. But I don't have a very good answer for you. I don't know if either of you have an answer there, but I don't.
Well, I'd just like to mention that, I'd like to give a lot of kudos to Lakeshore Natural Resource Partnership for really leading this effort. This is a local-led effort by nonprofits, by county, township, municipal government. So this is pretty unique, and frankly, some other counties just don't have that organizational capacity.
And on that, just so folks know, our accounting system is very robust. We use an account. We get audited financial statements monthly. We'll be able to basically segregate those town contributions and track those. In fact, using those town dollars in that township, and we'll be able to track that very effectively. Just so I know that concern was raised by a number of town boards, and we, I think, can address that pretty effectively.
Thank you, Supervisor Vogel. Supervisor Hoffman, you had your hand up, and then we'll move along to Supervisor.
Bay Lakes did some spraying in Brown County, in the Bay. That was probably what, 4 to 6 years. Yeah, somewhere in that neck of the woods. I was on Bay Lakes Committee at that time. Have we gotten any money from the state or federal highway people itself besides what money comes from our county organization?
That's the gorilla in the room is the DOT. We need to have a collective policy that allows the highway department to literally cut the entire swath. Right now, they can only cut 15 feet from the median. That's a real problem. And that is something that I know we've talked to Representative Tittle about. We've got to take that message to Madison. I know Mark has been very frustrated with that as well. I don't know, Tom, if you've got any perspective on that.
Well, just to build on that, the county can't spend its dollars on state right-of-ways. So that's the issue. The contracts that come to the county highway department to maintain those right-of-ways has got to include invasives. And that's a problem statewide. You can see for yourself if you drive down any one of our state systems, it's spread. And there's other species being spread. So that's exactly the problem.
Thank you, Supervisor Hoffman. Supervisor Dizak, you were next. You had your hand up.
Mr. Chair, my question / comment along the same lines as far as the state. It seems like we're fighting this county by county, and depending on how strong a county wants to fight the issues, we could be beating our head up against the wall in Manitowoc because of Brown County, Kewaunee County, Sheboygan County, but I don't want to fight it like we do. We're just going to be continuing the fight, and that's why I think going with the state, having some kind of a state organization may be the way to fight this, because you need to all be together. All the counties need to be together or it's basically going to fail. And so, you're saying that you do have communication with the state to try and go this route? Is that what I'm hearing?
You are. And so I do work closely with all the land and water conservation departments in the county. We're also part, and we help form the Lakeshore Invasive Species Management Area, which is a 4-county wide area. We work with CWISC, which is the Southeast Wisconsin Invasive Species Consortium, and in fact, Melissa is on their board. We work with DSIST, which is the Door County Invasive Species Team. So we're really trying to create a regional approach. And I think the state is recognizing our success. And I think that's going to carry some weight as we take that conversation to Madison. So I don't want you to think that we're in a silo and just isolated here in Manitowoc County. We really are trying to take a region-wide approach.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Supervisor Dizak. Any other questions? Well, we have it. I guess my question is, I can't get that off. Oh, I'll first talk with Supervisor Hendrickson. You're next.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess my big question is, are you trying to eradicate it by spraying, or do you cut it down and try to burn it out, or I guess?
There are multiple methods, but I think I'll let Melissa talk about treatment since she's the one in charge of that.
It's primarily an herbicide treatment. You know, if money were no object, we would do herbicide and then we would go back and do some sort of mechanical removal like burning or mowing, but primarily with the limited funds that we have available and the amount that we're treating in Manitowoc County, it's primarily herbicide treatments. We get about 95% kill the first treatment, and then as Jim mentioned, all of the retreatments, they're really just a small effort with a person in a backpack, and you just treat the individual stems that come up. And I think, you know, what's unique about our approach is there really are no efforts that are as comprehensive as this. So the Brown County work that they did, that was kind of a one and done treatment. Nobody is investing in the long-term control with the repeated applications of the retreatments like we are.
Okay, if you spray it, doesn't it become, I mean, it dries up and dies. Doesn't it become like a greater fire hazard, you know, after it's dead?
Potentially, but it's still the dead canes every year stay standing for about 2 years. So every year it's a fire hazard in my opinion.
Thank you.
You should mention that we have that with the highway department, the crews working on roads to try to knock that overburden down, as well as even talking to private landowners about doing that.
Thank you, Supervisor Henderson. Supervisor Falkowski, did you have your hand up too? Okay. Anybody else? Questions? Oh, Supervisor Holzbach. Yes, you are on.
Well, thank you guys, and you're doing incredible work, and you know that I'm a supporter of that work. And so I think it's great, the region-wide approach and eventually a state approach, because that's the way it's going to happen. But I think what's interesting about this invasive species is that a lot of people think it looks nice, or, you know, what's it hurting? It looks nice, and Tom and all of you did a great job of saying that. You know, it actually has impact on wildlife habitat and our waterways and our wetlands. And so, yes, statewide approach eventually, but Manitowoc County has some beautiful natural resources that we have to stay on in terms of keeping on this, I think. So thanks for all the work you're doing.
Thank you, Supervisor Holzbach. And that was going to be part of my little spiel. And I appreciate you, Supervisor Holzbach, because I know you've been on the board, you're leading the charge for at least the last 5 years on this, and you had got them the presentation here. You suggested having it here as well, and I gladly accepted it. So thank you as well.
And Supervisor Banky has been very supportive early on as well.
I agree, yes, especially with the highway department. Quickly, my question is, let's say Manitowoc County completely eradicates the Phragmites, and Brown County still has a couple of traces where is there a way, in a sense, to prevent? Do we spray again to when areas clean out? Is there preventive things to not start it up again? Is what I'm trying to say.
Yes. So part of our long-term plan is to set up this management fund so that long-term we've got money available for essentially rapid response. So we want the town staff, we want county staff to constantly be looking for this species, not only in the areas where we initially treated, but any new sites that may pop up, and they likely will pop up in roadside ditches. So those are the ideal candidates to keep a watch out. And then this management fund, hopefully that's funded by potentially the county, the townships, businesses, local citizens. We will have the infrastructure in place to be able to treat should we find any new infestations.
Thank you very much.
I might just put another piece to that answer. We also will be doing training on cleaning equipment. That's, I think, one of the most important pieces. We've done a couple of trainings with the highway department crews already, but I think foresters, landscapers, town crews, all of those folks really need to be kind of made aware of the impacts that they can have if they don't clean their equipment. So that's part of our plan.
Very good. Thank you very much. Yes, Supervisor Banky.
Question, do you have the current or what's left in the county right-of-ways mapped out as far as what needs to be treated as of now?
Well, essentially everything in the road right away is written at least once.
Okay, so when we go to the county executive for a request for $10,000, and remember, this is not just cash, this is in kind. Our crews go out and spray our right-of-ways, so this is in kind. So when this gets to budget time and we talk about this $10,000 request, this comes through highway, our guys will be doing the spraying in these right-of-ways. So I would like to see you guys at least talk to Mark and map out and with a plan. I appreciate you being here now today. Years past, we've been kind of behind the 8 ball during budget time, and it's a little bit too late at that point in time. This is fantastic. This is the right time of year to be talking about it. So mapping out those areas and putting that request in kind of a plan as to what we have left to do in the right-of-ways would be a good step forward into putting that into a request for the county executive's budget.
And Mark did already reach out to us.
Good. But thank you for being here.
Thank you, Supervisor Banky. Any other questions or comments? Well, Jim, Tom, and Melissa, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it, and you're always welcome. Yes, thank you for your efforts. All right, now let's go to the normal public comment. If there's anybody from the public wishing to speak to any matter germane to county government, please raise your hand and we'll come up to the podium. You'll be allowed approximately 3 minutes. Just give your name and address. Is there anybody wishing to speak from the public this evening? All right, we'll start with Maura. I'm sorry, Jessica. You have enough time to move that stuff? Okay.
Chip Yale, Centerville. Good evening. I wrote a while back about Manitowoc County debt being at a tipping point. One reason is that over the past 3 years, Manitowoc County will have borrowed $18 million. A second reason is that during County Executive Ziegelbauer's tenure from 2006 to today, we exported 31.5 million taxpayer dollars in principal and interest to bondholders. Today, we owe $1.2 million more in principal than we did in 2006. Not only do we owe more principal now, but by exporting those millions of dollars, our local economy has lost the possibility of their growth through what is called the time value of money. Simply, we have lost the potential earning capacity of those millions in our local economy. Another reason is that the bond rating service Moody's downgraded Manitowoc County, saying that our, quote, narrow financial reserves are expected to further contract. Before I get the hook, I want to say that I listened to County Executive Ziegelbauer's Be My Guest appearance on May 20th. He described a number of reasons that he doesn't think a half-penny sales tax is needed. Among the mischaracterizations that he cited is that there is, quoting Bob, quote, no need, no justification, and no plan for the tax, close. The ad hoc committee worked diligently for over a year to consider and draft a plan. Bob mentioned that in 2018, the county had a $2 million surplus, which sounds good until you consider what we must pay in debt service for the year is $3.2 million. Bob also smeared our county board leaders when he said, quote, when they criticize our debt, I think they don't understand or they are being disingenuous. They want to tax you because they can. It's a little arrogant. Those leaders have roughly 70 years of service to our community, so they are dedicated public service servants, well experienced in financial matters. I would like to think that our county executive is above smearing our legislators so we can earnestly address our county's business respectfully and cooperatively for the benefit of our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maura. Is there anybody else wishing to speak this evening? Anybody else wishing to speak? Third and final time, anybody else wishing to speak? See none, I'll declare public comment closed. And up next, communications that are shown on the agenda. I guess you'll realize that in your packet, the majority of them have been from the towns, cities, and villages of Manitowoc County regarding the request made by the ad hoc committee chairperson, Jim Ballman, and myself as county board chair to get their input on our proposed ordinance regarding a sales tax. There was also, I think, 3 of them on your desk that were actually done over the weekend and last night, too, a little late to get on the agenda. Obviously, you can use for your consideration, but they'll be put on the agenda next month as official communication. As you see, it runs the gamut. There's obviously support in full for it, some support, little support, no support at all, no action, and outright, I guess in my mind, a little bit greedy when they say they don't like it because they need more, they want more money out of it, which is interesting. But anyways, there they are for your consideration. Next up, there's no comment. All right, appointments by county executive. First up, Child Support Department, appoint Child Support Director Christine Damon. Motion by Supervisor Ballman, second by Supervisor Gauger to approve. Any discussion? See none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried unanimously. Christine, you're back to congratulations, first of all. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but you're certainly welcome to come up and say a few words. Yes, please. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to talk to you before the board meeting.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Christine Damon. I've been with Manitowoc County since 1994, and since that time, I've been with the Child Support Agency for all but 1 year. I am looking forward to using all the knowledge and the skills that I've obtained during that time to help lead and direct the department. Manitowoc County is very fortunate. We have a skilled, knowledgeable, and seasoned staff in place at the agency, and they work very hard to collect, support, and enforce orders for the citizens of Manitowoc County. So thank you.
Thank you as well, and nothing but the best. Don't be a stranger. If you need, be afraid to come back. Next up, Land Information Council to appoint 1 member to succeed Nancy Saueressig for a term which ends when employment with Manitowoc County terminates, and the recommendation is for Amy Koshin. Motion by Supervisor Falkowski, second by Supervisor Marish. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, motion carried unanimously. Next, Manitowoc Calumet Library System Board of Trustees to appoint 1 member to fulfill a term expiring in January of 2020, and the recommendation is for Chuck Krieger. Motion by Supervisor Holschbach, second by Supervisor Ballman. Discussion on the motion. See none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried unanimously. Next, Northeast Wisconsin Regional Economic Partnership to appoint 3 members to succeed Dan Politsky, alternate Peter Wills, and alternate April Kroner for a 1-year term expiring in July of 2020. And it will be Peter Wills as the appointee with alternates April Kroner and Dan Politsky. Motion by Supervisor Gauger, second by Supervisor Hoffman to approve those 3 appointments. Any discussion? See none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried unanimously. And last but not least, and the best one of all, I guess, Planning Park Commission to appoint 1 member to succeed Dave Dizak for a 7-year term expiring July 2026, and the recommendation is for Dave Dizak. Motion by Supervisor Hendrickson, second by Supervisor Niles to approve the nomination. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried unanimously. Thank you once again for serving, Supervisor Dizak. I appreciate it very much. Thank you for once again wanting to serve. Yes, thank you. All right, we will go on to committee reports. First up is the Ad Hoc Sales Tax Exploratory Committee with a resolution 2012 requesting Corporation Counsel to seek Attorney General opinion. Before I turn it over to Supervisor Ballman, I just want to say something quickly, I guess, and there must be some, I don't know if it's missing information or what, but remember last month, I know the original plan was tonight after the ad hoc committee met and regarding the proposed ordinance that we were going to vote on that ordinance tonight. And I explained last month that I was recommending against that. And obviously the ad hoc committee met the following weekend and had the resolution. So there seems to be some, especially on the public, but I also got the sense that some of the supervisors actually thought we were going to vote on the proposed sales tax ordinance tonight. Well, we're not. This is a discussion, a resolution asking Attorney General Josh Cowell his opinion on our proposed ordinance. So with that, I will turn it over to Supervisor Ballman as chair of the ad hoc committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Executive Bob Ziegelbauer is right. The county is in good financial shape. Through his guidance and the work of his department heads and their staffs, we're doing very well. But the towns, villages, and cities need additional financial support. Supervisor Niles and I met with the county executive last week, and the executive says, well, the towns, villages, and counties aren't our business. It's not county business. But every one of us represents a part of the county. So it is a business of the county. There's Outagamie County has got that sales tax that they approved. They are splitting it out 4 ways. Sheboygan County only to the towns, villages, and cities. Fond du Lac is just putting $1 million out, but not until 2022. I sent a letter to all the 2 senators and the representatives that represent Manitowoc County about 2 weeks ago. I got a call from Representative Tittle right away, and we talked about it. And I said, well, the sticking point is in 77.613. The county may split it out among the entities. And I said, my argument is that may means that you can pick and choose. You don't have to split it out among all the entities. He said, you're absolutely right. He said, that's the way I read it too. He said, ask any attorney and they will tell you may means may and shall means you must. So that's why we're asking your support in going to the Attorney General. Finally, the elections are over from last time. We're not asking for a vote to approve or disapprove the sales tax. Let's just get this opinion rendered. I know Peter rendered his, but opinions from the attorneys and doctors aren't always the same. So I'm asking again for your approval of this. Thank you.
So would you like to make a motion to approve the?
I will make a motion to approve the resolution.
So there's a motion by Supervisor Ballman, second by Supervisor Brunner to approve the resolution. Discussion on the motion. I open up for discussion. Has the buttons working? The buttons are not working. Oh, I should be looking over there. Yes, I'm sorry. So we will start with Supervisor Giroux.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I won't be supporting this resolution. We have been at this for quite a while. I have had not one conversation or email from a constituent that's supporting a sales tax. I do not support a sales tax. There were a number of reasons that the Attorney General before the election wouldn't comment because of the proceedings in the Brown County courts. I think there are plenty of issues here. We have an opinion from Corporation Counsel here. I think it's an excellent opinion. It just seems to me that some members of the ad hoc committee are going out shopping for an opinion that they approve of, and that they're just going to continue to do this until somebody agrees with them. And I think there's enough things going on right now that we should wait for what happens at the state level. I think this is, frankly, a waste of time. And I would hope that a majority of you agree with that. And I suspect that this Attorney General is going to give the same response that the last one did, that there are issues pending in the courts and that he won't comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Droll, but I guess I'd have to correct, we never as a body, we did attempt to try to get a resolution through this body to ask the Attorney General's opinion. It failed. We never did get an official or any opinion from the Attorney General's office last year, so just wanted to correct that portion of it. All right, next, Supervisor Nichols, you were next.
Yes, thank you. I'm looking at number 2 of the 4 questions that we are requesting to ask the Attorney General in this resolution. I'm assuming that that is related to the ad hoc committee's decision to exclude the school districts from any disbursements. Is that correct? And I'm just wondering what the legal basis is that we're using to make that determination to only exclude school districts from that distribution?
Frankly, it has nothing to do with an ad hoc committee decision. This, in my opinion, was rendered long before the ad hoc committee, I think, was even, well, certainly was formed and I think was even conceived of. I was asked 4 questions and I answered those 4 questions, one of which was, can the county pick and choose which municipalities it elects to distribute monies to?
But isn't it accurate to say that the ad hoc committee has been moving forward with a plan to exclude the school districts from the distribution?
They excluded school districts from their proposed ordinance.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Nichols. Supervisor Falkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The AG opinion request. The first time this was presented, the resolution was hashtag 2018-2019. This resolution was identically to the one that's now being presented, hashtag 2019/2020. Pursuant to Wisconsin statute 5942(1-C, it does state that our council may seek the opinion, but generally, if our council has an impasse, it's with his own determination. Unlike examples advocates point to other counties, our council has written opinion with notations and citations supporting that opinion. 9 pages, if you read it, focused on the questions identical to the efforts that are being proposed in this resolution. As a supplement, the Wisconsin Legislative Council researched the use of the county's sales tax and sent their findings. It is not departing from our council's opinion. So not only do I not support this resolution, it continues to indulge the efforts of an advocacy lobby group. And under Chapter 19 of Wisconsin statutes, the provision of general duties of public officials, 19.39 allows any person to request advice from the Attorney General. I didn't see anything in their minutes about anyone inquiring those questions under 1939 to see if there was any persistence to force this issue. I sense the committee's disappointment of the council's findings, but the temerity to impose an advocacy position is more like a paid lobbyist. Since there still is pending litigation involving another county about the sales tax, this may inhibit the AG's ability to engage. So what's the point? I perceive this as a bad procedural move and purposely looking for a different answer. Again, I encourage you to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Falkowski. Supervisor Zimmer, you are next.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to challenge Supervisor Bauman's interpretation of the word may in the statute 77.76 parens 3. May means that if we choose, we may distribute the tax monies to 4 entities: the villages, the towns, the municipalities, and the school districts. There is nowhere in the statute that says, by the way, you can pick any one of those 4 or any make any other decision to choose some and eliminate the others. It doesn't say that. And that's supported by the work of Corporation Counsel Conrad. He put together a scholarly, diligent research paper concerning the distribution of the 0.5% sales tax proceeds. That's the primary question that is the basis of the resolution before us tonight. If we had no question about that, we'd have no resolution. Corporation Counsel Conrad's opinion on that matter is based upon his thorough knowledge of legislation and how it is constructed so that it's as unambiguous as possible. Mr. Conrad makes clear that if the 0.5% sales tax ordinance takes effect, that the county may distribute all or a portion of the amount it receives to towns, villages, cities, and school districts of the county. Mr. Conrad is so thorough, he goes into the use of the conjunctive word "and" before the school districts, which is used in listing the entities to which the county may distribute. He explains why the word "and" is important. He says that under the rules of statutory interpretation, a court must look to the plain language of the statute. In this case, the statute is clear and unambiguous. It states that a county may distribute it to the towns, villages, cities, and school districts of the county. Mr. Conrad explains that the conjunctive word "and" means that all requirements must be met. And to support that argument, he cites the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And they say, where two or more requirements are provided in a section, and it is the legislative intent that all of the requirements must be fulfilled in order to comply with the statutes, the conjunctive "and" should be used. Now, I presume that if such were not the case, and counties could eliminate school districts from entities to which the sales tax proceeds could be distributed, then counties could also pick and choose which towns, cities, and villages it wishes to receive the tax proceeds. Now that, Mr. Chairman, I hope we can all agree, is not possible, and neither is the exclusion of the school districts. I learned a lot from Mr. Conrad's research, which is well supported by legal precedents, which bolsters his argument. Even you, Mr. Chairman, in your statement at the most recent county board meetings has said this of Mr. Conrad. I respect Peter and his decision, and I know he went down to Madison and did a complete and thorough research with this, you said. If you believe that, Mr. Chairman, then why is this resolution necessary? Furthermore, Mr. Chairman, you and the rest of us on the county board have received, at the request of certain county board members, an opinion on this matter from the Wisconsin Legislative Council. That opinion unequivocally supports the interpretation of Corporation Counsel Conrad. Therefore, why are we considering this resolution? By the way, do we have the same kind of scholarly legal research as Corporation Counsel Conrad's from Sheboygan County's Corporation Counsel or from Fond du Lac's Corporation Counsel, whereby they present an argument that supports the idea that the statute allows the elimination of school districts from the distribution of tax dollars? If so, where is it? Furthermore, we assume that because Sheboygan County's decision has not been challenged, I beg your pardon, let me correct myself. Furthermore, should we assume that because Sheboygan County's decision has not been challenged, that it is thus legal? The nation, the United States, is unfortunately replete with bad examples of governments flouting established law. The declarations by certain municipal governments to create sanctuary cities is but one example. Will those challenges about sanctuary cities be legally challenged? No, probably not. Does that therefore make them legal? No. Flouting the law is illegal and is therefore a crime. County Executive Ziegelbauer would be obligated, in my view, to refuse to implement a statute that eliminates the county school districts in a distribution plan should this ill-considered tax hike proposal be passed. As our very learned Corporation Counsel has stated, such a statute would be void on its face. So I urge that we disapprove this resolution because we already know what the law requires under the state statute. We have received two unimpeachable opinions, and we need go no further. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Zimmer. Supervisor Dizak, you were next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My issue with this resolution is an example of how we've shifted the discussion. We have shifted the discussion from do we need it to is it legal? If we don't even know if we need it, why even look at the legalities yet? The way we're talking about the final tax increase is we're going to give some to the municipalities and we're going to keep the rest for the county. What is the county going to do with the money? That has not even been discussed as far as I know. Therefore, I'm against the resolution of asking the Attorney General for opinion because we need to either have the discussion of what we're going to do with the money and then worry about legalities. I don't believe it's legal either, and I think Supervisor Zimmer has gone through exhaustive research also to demonstrate that. And therefore, I don't think I could support this or the tax increase till we know more about what we want to do with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Dizak, but I must correct you on one of your statements where you said that there's no plan for this money. The proposed ordinance is specific. It says that 70% of that money will go to the Manitowoc County Highway Department for infrastructure improvements, i.e. road repair, road development. 30% of the money, which out of the estimated 5.3 that's been bounced around, would go to be divided up among the municipalities. And you are correct, not the school districts in that ordinance. So there is a plan. Right.
It has to be capital projects as far as the law is concerned. But it's just basically here, have some money, highway department. And I didn't think that was a very good way to distribute it or control the funds. That's why I say that it's really not a good plan for what we're going to do with the money.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your comments. Supervisor Hanson, you are next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. During the ad hoc meeting, I voted against this because I can't believe we're going back down that road. I can't believe we're still talking about this after 2 years. I will support this tonight after reading the communication from the executive about shopping. We're not shopping for the right decision. Anybody sitting in a chair in this room knows there are different interpretations of law. Supervisor Zimmer correctly brought up an example of sanctuary cities in the law. We all know there are other examples of branches of government doing things that people feel are against the law. So there's a lot of questions when it comes to the legal opinion of something. We all know what happened to the court in Wisconsin, how political it is. You don't run as a justice anymore, as someone who's going to interpret the law. You run as a Dem or you run as a Repub. Because the law now changes depending who gets elected or who appoints those people. That's been my biggest disappointment, I guess, over the last couple of years, is understanding that about the courts. I was taught they were fair, non-partial, and people would make the right decision. That seems to be gone. So it's not shopping for what we believe in. It's getting an opinion to say, yeah or nay. Maybe the Attorney General agrees completely with the work our Corp Counsel did. Maybe he doesn't. But I think we have the right to know that. This request has nothing to do with the Corp Counsel's credibility. Nothing. It's asking for another opinion, a different opinion. Has nothing to do with Peter's opinion. He researched, he did good research. But everybody knows that you get one opinion from one person, and somebody may have a different interpretation of that law. Peter and I and Peter and other members of the committee have had long discussions on this. And there is respect between the people and our disagreements. Supervisor Nichols, you are correct in the school district. And this discussion took place after the meeting that Outagamie, which just passed the sales tax, is dividing that money up using different criteria, including the school district. There's a possibility of looking at doing that this way with the resolution. They take other things into account in dividing up that money, so everybody does get a piece of it. And I think that warrants looking at. I'm tired of discussing this issue. My original vote was I was against this. I just want it on the table and let's vote and let's decide. But after reading that letter, let's go and get a decision. If he agrees with Peter, it's over. Then we have, the top guy in the state saying, no, you can't do it. If he disagrees, that sheds new light on what Outagamie County is doing, may shed some light on what Sheboygan's doing. Having talked about this for 2 years, there is a need. And all of you can read, all of you can listen to the state of Wisconsin and the mess they're in with roads. I have been crystal clear since this started that the money would go to road repair, not for other things, to fixing roads in the county, in the towns and villages. We would share it and get it done. That's the purpose of this. Not for new projects, not for frivolous things. It's to do repair. And if you drive enough in the county, you'll see that we need repair. So Supervisor Baumann, I'm changing my vote from committee, and I will vote yes on this tonight.
Were you done, Supervisor Hanson? Thank you. Supervisor Niles, you were next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what Supervisor Hanson was saying. This is not obviously a reflection on Peter or his any questioning his ability to come up with this opinion. This is basically asking the question that everybody wants to know the answer to, what our state thinks of this. And it is, in my opinion, my duty to my constituents to aid them in what they need help with. And right now, they need help with their roads. And they're not going to borrow money and try to pay it back. That's just not in the cards for them. Bonding money for road repairs is not paying for money, paying for roads 20 years from now that we're worked on now anyways. So I'm going to support this because I think we need to get this question answered. And thank you.
Thank you Supervisor Niles. Supervisor Falkowski, your second time. You
Yes, thank you. It struck me listening to some of this that sometimes the position is more about tactics than it is actually intrinsically what's going on. I stated before actually that it did catch my eyes, and in fact I did myself as a elected representative did inquire to the Attorney General about something. So I was curious with all people on your committee, people that have this great curiosity, what's the answer? Can we do this sales tax thing the way we want to do it? And yet nobody does it. We want our clerical help to do it, our corporate counsel. He's done it already. He's addressed it. He actually has citations. They said he had 9 pages of references to these questions. So I find it to be pointless other than trying to maneuver, as a tactic. In some regard, I do interpret the townships or municipalities having some difficulties with their infrastructure supporting. But quite honestly, I almost will guarantee that they have not exhausted all their options. And so now we're going into having the county do a sales tax to give them a revenue stream. I find that presentation of how to utilize a 0.5% sales tax to help municipalities after they have not exhausted all their capabilities of gaining resources for their townships or for the municipalities, I find it to be, once again, a tactic. It's a tactic that you either desire something, shopping may be a different way of expressing it, but quite honestly, I think it's a disappointment of the findings that our council has found, and you're just looking for an avenue to find a different way to get an answer. And that's why I will still not support this. Thank you.
Thank you Supervisor Falkowski. Any other discussion on the motion? I'm gonna ask 2 more times because then I will close the speaking. Anybody else wishing to speak? Supervisor Zimmer, your second turn.
I just wanted to comment on some of the things I heard. Supervisor Niles, I believe, said we need to get an answer. Well, if the Attorney General says something that is opposite of what our corporation counsel said, does that settle the matter? I don't think the Attorney General, last time I looked, can make law. So that won't settle the matter at all. Now, another thing. Can you imagine what the school districts are going to say if we pass a resolution and we say, towns, cities, and municipalities, you could share in this money, but school districts, we've eliminated you. If I were officials in the school districts in Manitowoc County, I may have an argument to make, because the argument that they should make and will is that you're violating the statute by not including them. Supervisor Hanson said something about partisan opinions affecting the judiciary, and I think he's probably right. But Pete Conrad, our corporation counsel, is anything but partisan. He's a hardworking, scholarly, in my opinion, expert on the law and how legislators make law so that the law is as clear, as I said earlier, and unambiguous as possible. So this opinion of his is anything but partisan. Moreover, remember what the Wisconsin Legislative Council said, a state body. And they agreed, as I said earlier, unequivocally with what Mr. Conrad says. So you got 2 entities agreeing with the interpretation of the law. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Zimmer. Supervisor Ballman.
If you ever listen to the talk channels, Channel 58, CNBC, CNN, you can hear these attorneys talking about opinions. Everybody's got a different opinion about things. We're just asking for clarification on this one may we deal. The thing with the school districts, Todd Reckelberg made a report for us that said if we split it 70-30 and that 30% is split with the school districts, they will take half of the money, and believe me, there won't be enough money to distribute to the townships, cities, and villages. That's the long and the short of it. That's why we're talking about getting money to the entities to repair their roads. We've been to meetings up in Two Creeks, LTC, Michicot, here in the boardroom in the city of Kiel, and the townships need some help. That's all we're asking for, just to get an opinion from the Attorney General. And that's the long and the short of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Baumann. Any other discussion on the motion? Supervisor Banky.
As far as a paid lobbyist is concerned, Supervisor Falkowski, I have to make sure that we amend the pay for resolution coming forward. If we are a paid lobbyist, I have to take that into consideration. I never considered myself a paid lobbyist, not at this salary. We sure don't do it for the money. Again, you can get 8 attorneys in a room, and that's not a joke coming forward, that you're going to get 8 different opinions probably on a lot of things. And I think Peter will probably admit that. And through the years with the Towns Association and the WCA lawyers, interpretation of statutes can go across the board, and there's a whole lot of different interpretations of ideas of where that goes. I held a meeting in my district. I've spent hours talking to local municipality leaders about this particular subject, and I've gotten a whole lot of different feedback from them. I don't see where the problem is, and I'm going to support this resolution. I don't see where the problem is asking an interpretation. How much does that cost us? It doesn't cost us a dime to ask the person that's in charge of interpreting the statutes at the state level and their staff, and I'm sure they're going to, if they take these questions, are going to give due diligence to giving us an interpretation of the statutes. It doesn't cost us anything. Not at all. And we're talking here like this is going to change the world here in this discussion, asking an opinion that's not going to cost us a dime to get. Really? We're going to get all excited about Peter can put his big boy pants on. It's not going to hurt his reputation if the Attorney General differs from his. We've had that discussion, and he has no problem. There is a need. I put this point blank on the state of Wisconsin, the state legislature, the previous governor. You all know I lean to the right, but since 2005, they have left the townships with levee freezes that have basically squeezed them to death, and their roads are going to a place where I can't say on TV. It is really a desperate situation when it comes to townships that have 60 miles of road and are putting them back to gravel. They're having to eat the cost of increased ambulance and emergency services without the ability to adjust. There clearly is a need. And I put it point blank when I testified at the Joint Finance Committee and looked at Representative Nygaard, and he just smirked at me when I told him, you guys can't walk away from automatic indexing and then just all of a sudden now Marquette Interchange comes along, the Zoo Interchange comes along, all these big projects, paying back the people back in Dane County and Milwaukee County on these big projects, and the pot of money that comes back to local municipalities to fix roads isn't there. And the ability to do that. Towns can't borrow money. They can't pay it back with a levy freeze. Can't borrow money. Not going to happen. Where's that money coming from? It's going to come from roads. And it has since 2005. So asking for an opinion, I don't have a problem with that. I'll support this resolution, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Supervisor Benke. Any other discussion on the motion? Any other discussion on the motion? Third and final time. All right, I will speak. I get very good discussion. I guess, it's open for interpretation, and I think most of you have stuck to the point here. We weren't discussing whether the sales tax was good or bad. We're discussing whether we should have the opinion. And I guess, I will support the resolution. And I find it interesting. Supervisor Hanson had a lot of my comments, so I won't repeat those. But after seeing the county executive's email/letter, I guess I was ready to ask Peter an opinion on what shopping is. I thought that was an interesting shopping. To me, shopping is when I meet you at a local store on a Friday afternoon. My kids are there working and I'm shopping. That's shopping. Nobody's shopping for opinions here. That's crazy. And just remember what the one thing here in this whole thing, the discussion here. Who asked for Peter's opinion? Did the county board ask for the opinion? No, it was the county executive. We have the ability to search out our opinions. We are not violating. It's part of our own rules. It's part of everything. It's not a disgrace to Peter. It's not a slam on Peter, but we have the right to do that. So I urge you to support this resolution tonight. With that, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution requesting Corporation Counsel to seek Attorney General opinion.
The resolution passes 15-8 with Supervisors Gauger, Zimmer, Vogel, Wagner, Mink, Falkowski, Giroux, and Dizak voting no. So I guess I'll go one more step here. I guess I'll have one request to the county executive. If you're going to veto this, I guess veto it as soon as you can so we can try to override it and send it in. So that's my request. All right. Like I said, great discussion. I think everybody was very civil in their discussion. It was very well mannered. It was very good timing. But we will move on and we'll see what happens. All right. Next up, Aging and Disability Resource Center Board Supervisor Wagner is the chair.
Thank you, Chairman Bright. First off, I'd like to have Kathy Lee come to the podium. And everyone should have received the blue sheet, Living with Dementia. And she's going to explain why it's here. Also, our next meeting will be July 23rd in Kewaunee County at 10 o'clock for Commission on Aging and ADRC at 10:45. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Kathy. And Kathy, you have the podium.
Thank you. Good evening. I brought one of my staff with me, Olivia Delikowski, because a director is only as good as her staff, and I'm not going to take credit for something I did not do. So in 2018, we started a Facebook page. I was a little worried about it. I'm in a little bit of an older generation, but I hired a younger staff that knows a lot about social media. And this post that you got was put on our Facebook page in March of this year. Some incredible things have happened from this, and I would like to have your permission to have Olivia tell you what's happened with this post.
Please.
Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to share some of the positive things that social media can do. So this post that you're looking at actually went viral. This is the closest to famous I've ever gotten, so it was pretty exciting for us. On the viral post, we have now reached 8,429,361 people worldwide. It has had 503,400 reactions, comments, and shares. And it took us from 131 page likes when I started this position in January to 4,126 in 72 hours in March. And we are now at 4,564 followers in the middle of June, the highest number of page followers in all of the ADRCs of Wisconsin. It is still being shared today. As of this morning, an additional 26 shares have happened in the last 24 hours. It's been shared by caregivers, children, friends, and some bigger agencies like the Alzheimer's Foundation of America,
Parkinson's Awareness Association, Dementia Society of America, Lewy Body Dementia Association, the Oklahoma Disability Federation, clinical psychiatrist pages, home cares, hospice agencies, and more.
All right. It's amazing. That's, I mean, like you said, I mean, I think most of us are involved with social media right now, but I definitely see a lot of the negative sides, but this was definitely a positive thing. It was very good. Anything else? Please, Kathy.
And I want to thank the ladies for coming in tonight for this, because it is amazing how much it has gone viral. So that's the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Wagner? Thank you very much. Let me get back my agenda here, sorry. Board of Health, Supervisor Metzger will be giving a report. This is the chair.
June 13th, the health officer report, staff update. Several public health nurses have been on leave or absences. So we hired a temporary to help with communicable disease control. April and May communicable disease report, which included chlamydia, influenza, hospitalizations, and gonorrhea as the top 3 most reported diseases. Approval of the 2019 additional fee schedule. We did not have any fee increases in 2008 from 2018. The T-spot, which is the blood test to test for tuberculosis, was one of the items that was added to the fee scheduling. There was discussion about adding chlamydia and gonorrhea to the fee schedule. Proposed DHS Administrative Rule 140. This rule outlines all the required services by local health departments. The old rule was repealed and a new rule was created. Many changes will be implemented over the next 4 to 5 years. The Environmental Manager Report, the Department of Ag expects that all retail food establishments need to have at least 1 certified food manager on staff at all facility locations. Beach testing for the summer has started. UW Oshkosh received the funding to implement the program and frequency of testing of each beach. The WIC report, the caseload for May was 964 participants, 558 families. The contract load is 1,106. The farmers market started June 1st, so eligible families will receive $35 in vouchers to use at the certified markets. Our next meeting is July 11th. That is the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Metzger? Thank you very much. Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, Supervisor Falkowski is one of our representatives.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was no meeting this month. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 4th. Thank you.
Any questions for Supervisor Falkowski? Thank you very much. Executive Committee, we will probably be meeting before the next county board meeting to discuss a little bit about the opiate litigation going on. And I also want to mention as well, and I'm sure all of you are aware that Supervisor Ed Rappy and Supervisor Kathy Bundy, former members of the county board, passed away within the last several weeks. I went to both funerals and both were honored by County Executive Ziegelbauer's lowering of the flags to half staff on the day of their funeral. They were very honored by that. I do plan also to have proclamations in honor of both of them somewhere in the future. I talked with Barb Bundy, Kathy's daughter. I said, when you're ready. And you know, if you know Barb, she's very enthusiastic, and it was definitely a celebration of life at her funeral. But so those will be coming in the future as well. That's all I have right now. Any questions? Thank you very much. Ex-Vice Senate Board, Supervisor Gauger will be giving a report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had met June 5th. We had some updates on different committee reports, and we're working on our parking on the new east lot right now. You can see it's kind of in a disarray. The plan for that is that it'll be ready for seed at the end of the month. That's its schedule. We'll be glad to see that. We've purchased a striping machine so we can do our own striping and stuff. We used to have hired out to put limestone down, and it was a little tough on the lawnmowers and everything. And I think it'll be nice because we can always change things because the grass will grow and we can cut it off and start anew again. Our next meeting will be July 3rd. And that's the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Gauger? Thank you very much. We're looking forward to the fair once again. I think the Fair Board and Expo and everybody involved is doing a great job. I mean, it might be a little cluttered at first, but the plans are working, so great job to all. Let's see, next up, Finance Committee. Supervisor Hanson is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to turn the first part of the report over to Supervisor Bruner, who is the secretary of the committee.
Okay, I will just set up Secretary Supervisor Bruner.
You're going to have to tell me when that second part starts. We met June 10th and just discussed the vouchers, the May 2019 vouchers of $3,445,000 roughly were approved of. Public Works Director Jerry Noiser brought up two properties that had been recently acquired through tax foreclosure on North 10th Street in the city of Manitowoc. And the question was, are we okay to go ahead with the listing prices of $5,000 for one of them and $100 for the other one? And after seeing the pictures and hearing about these properties, we agreed that that was probably a fair price for those properties. So they are on the market as we speak. Personnel Director Sharon Cornels gave us a kind of a review of the health insurance plan. And I was sitting there thoroughly impressed with the information she provided us and the money she actually can save the county by the work that she's done. So she did a wonderful job with that. We did get an update on the revolving loan fund. There's a property in Two Rivers that the old Paragon building that is going to be coming up here soon as an issue. We discussed that a little bit. I think that pretty much covers the bulk. Did you want to take the resolution? All right. Then I bring forward a resolution denying the claim of a Heather Kunish who slipped on the ice in front of the, and what is the name of the building?
The administration building.
There you go. Is that, okay, in the administration building. It turned out that at least from what I understand, and Peter, you can back me up on this, is that the insurance company recommended that we do deny this claim because proper action was taken to keep the sidewalks clear, but this was a winter storm and she fell during that storm. Am I correct on that?
That's correct. We have policies we follow. We have policies, we follow our policies, and as a result, we don't have liability.
Very well. So I bring the resolution forth to deny the claim.
So motion by Supervisor Bruner, second by Supervisor Ballman to adopt the resolution. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution denying a claim for Heather Kunish.
Resolution passes 23-0. Is that Supervisor Bruner, or should I turn back to Supervisor Hanson?
I'll shift it back over to Supervisor
Okay,
Hanson.
thank you very much. Supervisor Hanson, you are on.
Thank you for your outstanding work, Supervisor Bruner. Just a note to the board, I'm being trained for a new job, so I will be missing a meeting here and there. So I appreciate the work that the Finance Committee did the other night. On your report tonight that we got from Clifton, Larson, and Allen, things are going well. Our debt load is low. Okay. But remember when he explained that, that's how we rank per debt in this area. It does not have to do with the economy and how it's going. It's our debt. Okay. Something that might be a little confusing in the report is we had a good year last year, but if you look at the total governmental funds, we're down about 1.3 million. But please remember that money is part of that expo money that was set aside for building that expo. It's also part of the utility money that we got that was spent on projects. So that money had a purpose. It was spent for those purposes. So don't get confused that way. We did, in the end, come out about 700,000, I believe was a figure from last year. That being said, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Supervisor Hanson or for Supervisor Bruner for that matter? All right, thank you both very much. Next up, Human Services Board, Supervisor Hendrickson is the chair.
The Human Services Board met at 4:45 on May 23rd. Information on Lakeshore Foster Families and Friends in Foster Care. Carrie Coble, Director of Lakeshore Foster Families and Friends, a nonprofit organization, provide information on their group services. Carrie and her husband have been foster parents for 21 years. They have 11 children and some are adopted. The Cobles want to inspire and recruit people for fostering, guardianships, and kinship care. They want to provide resources and promote retention. They recognize the need for foster families to join forces to support each other and create a great environment for the kids. Their goal is to ensure that every placement provider has resources they need to provide children with a safe and loving home. As a nonprofit, they are conducting fundraisers to raise money to support some of their activities. There was a successful winter fundraiser, and this will be held again next year. Basically, the board members ask questions in Lakeshore Families and Friends Group for the very important work that they do. The Child Protective Services ongoing position was approved at a recent county board meeting. The job description has been updated as posted internally as well as advertised. The community support program has been filled. Due to some reassigned job duties, there is now a comprehensive community services facilitator appointment open. Excuse me, stumbling over words. I have a slight cold. And our next regular meeting of the Human Services Board will be held on Thursday, June 27th, 2019 at 4:30 p.m. If you notice, it is a change from 4:45 to 4:30. That so concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Supervisor Hendrickson? Thank you very much. Land Conservation Committee, UW Extension, Education, and Agricultural. I'm sorry, Supervisor Metzger, I apologize. You have a question, comment?
Yes, I do. I had talked to the county exec a little before the meeting, but I'd like your opinion on this. For the respite care for human services, they had asked Lakeshore CAP to take over that part of, because the county won't pay for some services. Can you give me a little update on that? What is your opinion on all that, and how is that planning on working? Or I'm just concerned because I am on Lakeshore CAP and I want to make sure that we would get reimbursed. But if the county can't pay for the respite care, something about third shift, they don't want to pay when they're sleeping or something like that. If you can just fill me in a little bit more on that.
I'm not sure right now. I can check in to get back to you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Metzger and Supervisor Hendrickson. Anything else for Human Services while we're still here? All right, now we'll go to Land Conservation Committee, UW Extension, Education, and Agricultural Committee. Supervisor Wagner is the chair.
Thank you, Chairman Bryan. The Glacier Land Resource Conservation and Development Incorporated, Grassworks, SAR, or Sustainable Agricultural Research and Education, and the Wisconsin Farmers Union will be presenting a summer grazing pasture walk at the Saxon Homestead Farm on Wednesday, July 10th from 1 till 3:30. The farm is located at 621 South Union Road. And this is a free event, but they would like a RSVP. So Nick Myers is taking those, and he has Nicholas.Myers, and that's Myers with MYERS at USDA.gov. Our next meeting for the Land Conservation Committee will be July 18th at the county office at 4:30. The UW Extension Committee will be meeting this Thursday at 4:30 at the county office complex. That's the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Wagner? Thank you very much. Planning and Park Commission, Supervisor Dizak is the chair. Did I miss personnel? And oh gosh, thank you very much. We will go to personnel. Supervisor Marsh is the chair.
How could you miss me?
I know, and I was just actually thinking about speaking of what I was going to say in the resolution. I apologize.
I know I go on and on at times.
No,
Okay.
you do not.
We met on June 4th. We reviewed our 2018 health plan performance that Supervisor Bruner talked about. Yes, indeed, Sharon does a fantastic job. If you ever want to find out the statistics about that, just let us know and we'll let you know how much we're saving. Okay, also, we approved the method used to prorate part-time employees' paid time off to the next 10th percentile because of some changes in Kronos Workforce Ready HR system. It was the new system that came into effect, and we needed to make sure that the change is, they're rounding it up to the next full time, the percentage of full-time to the next 10th percentile. Otherwise, they have to have lots of different programs that they have in it. And this just, and just makes it much easier. Also, I am bringing forth the resolution establishing compensation for county board supervisors for the term beginning April 2020. As we have talked about in the past, the unintended consequences with people that were not able to attend the county board meeting for any reason, and they were deducted $100 from the salary that we get. So we are taking that out, if you read the resolution, and the salary will stay the same. So I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Marsh, second by Supervisor Bauman. Discussion on the motion. I guess quickly, if we enacted the original one or changed it 2 years ago for this term, there was some abuse. There was some abuse, and I'm not going to deny it. I shouldn't say I was against going back to where we are, but I do agree with one portion. There was unintended consequences that were coming up. For example, Supervisor Benke went to a highway conference this past January. It was on a county board night, so he lost the $100, but he was actually doing county business. I mean, that should have been, we should have looked at that and never thought, I guess, when that whole process was discussed when we went to that thing. So I would have definitely supported that. I know the Personnel Committee went a little step further, but I guess I'm in agreement. I will gladly support it. Everybody's equal here. We're all created equal in a sense that, but and like I said, attendance at most meetings have been, or I should say all meetings have been spectacular. It's back the way they should be. I know, granted, there's people, you're going to miss things. It happens. People are sick and it happens to me too. And I missed the meeting this afternoon for the city and I just couldn't make it. So it happens. But you're right. We're all equal and the salary should remain the same. And I just want to reiterate that once again to the audience and those listening at home, this resolution is not increasing the salary for the county board supervisors next year or for next term. It just remains the same. It'll just be a standard fee or standard pay for everybody every month. All right, more discussion. Supervisor Falkowski.
Thank you. Essentially, then we're depending on people not to abuse the situation by actually attending these meetings. So there's no punitive action on their part for not actually attending the meetings. I mean, what's the mechanism that kind of encourages people that don't show up for the meeting?
You have to answer to your constituents then that you're not showing up to meetings.
That would be it.
Yeah, the election. If they don't feel you're doing the job and not attending meetings, that's where they have their say.
Well, it sounds like a good logic. And Supervisor Benke, if I ever get into that lobbyist thing, I'll file an economic interest filings with the controller. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Falkowski. Any other discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution establishing compensation for county board supervisors for term beginning April 2020.
The motion passed 21-0 to one abstention. Supervisor Vogel abstained. So, there we go. Anything else, Supervisor Marsh?
Yes, our next meeting will be August 6th. And since Supervisor Benke didn't do his highway department committee report, I can use his time, he said. I just wanted to mention my sister. You know, I like to talk. Anyway, my sister Julie Meyer is here watching to see what I do, and she went to school here as the County Teacher College.
Wow.
So Julie Meyer, my sister lives in Houston, but now that they're retired, they summer in Wisconsin. So I just wanted to
Welcome,
mention that.
welcome back. I did meet her before the meeting, and I'll be honest, I thought it was you. I thought you changed your hairstyle, and I said, well, but she explained, and I said I was trying to get her to sit in your seat before you came in. But
Anyway,
nice meeting you.
That is the end of my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Marish? Thank you very much. Planning Park Commission, Supervisor Dizak is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have not met since the last county board meeting, but out of the May meeting, I do have an ordinance. It is for Anthony Geibel, who is requesting approximately 10.18 acres of land to be rezoned from exclusive ag to general ag. The area to be considered for rezoning meets past criteria set by the commission. The Eden Town Board has supports the proposed zoning change, and the change is to allow the single-family home to be built. There's no cropland involved. It's all wooded at this time, and I move for its approval.
So motion by Supervisor Dizak, seconded by Supervisor Hoffman to approve the ordinance. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, the clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the ordinance amending zoning map for Anthony Geibel.
Supervisor Dizak, want to try once again? There you go, there you go, there you go. Ordinance passed 23-0.
Thanks for the coaching. Okay, our next meeting is June 24th with 3:30 advisory meeting and 4 o'clock planning park meeting at the county office complex. That concludes my report.
Any questions for Supervisor Dizak? Thank you very much. Public Safety Committee, Supervisor Vogel is the chair.
Mr. Chair, we held our meeting on June 12th where the entire Public Safety Committee did an annual jail tour and passed with flying colors. Our next meeting will be July 16th before the next county board meeting. And that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Any questions for Supervisor Vogel? Thank you very much. Public Works Committee, Supervisor Giroll is the chair.
Mr. Chair, Public Works met on June 12th. Director Noiser covered the solid waste and recycling programs. We had an update on the number of signatories to the solid waste disposal agreement. All of the communities that had signed on the past agreement, except St. Nazians, have signed up. There was an update on the Clean Sweep program, which was a little bigger than last year, and we'll have a little more in-depth report next month. We covered capital projects. We approved some pay requests for Elfson Excavating on a water main project at the office complex, 2 Schaus roofing projects at the law enforcement center and the ice center. I have 2 resolutions that I will introduce at the end of my report. We discussed some capital projects in the communications division. Cody Berg gave an update on IS. Janelle Shelton gave us an update on what's going on out at Expo and things about the fair coming up. And the resolutions that I'm introducing are involving some water main and a sanitary sewer easement out at Expo involved with the Meyer project. The First one is Resolution 2019-2020-16, authorizing water main utility easement on the Expo Grounds property. I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Droll, second by Supervisor Dizak. Discussion on the motion? See none? The clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution authorizing water main utility easement on Expo Grounds property.
There we go. Resolution passes 23-0.
And the second resolution is 2019-2020-17, authorizing a sanitary sewer utility easement on the Expo Grounds property. I so move.
So motion by Supervisor Droll, second by Supervisor Gauger. Discussion on the motion? See none? The clerk will now conduct the vote.
Supervisors will now vote on the resolution authorizing sanitary sewer utility easement on Expo Grounds property.
Resolution passes 23-0.
That concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Any questions for Supervisor Droll? Supervisor Brunner?
I met with the Industrial Development Corporation earlier tonight, and the discussion came up about the Vebon Hecker Road property, and I'm just wondering if there's any update there.
Sorry about that. Nothing to date. Director Noiser was touching base with the city to see whatever action they intended, and
All right.
as far as I know, we have yet to get a response. The farmer that has been farming it and interested in buying it is kind of waiting to see what the city does.
Okay.
So I mean, that's kind of where that is right now.
Well, it did come up on our agenda, so obviously
Right,
there's
yeah.
still interest on the
Yeah.
part of the city.
Thank you, Supervisor Brunner and Supervisor Droll. Any other questions for Supervisor Droll? All right, Transportation Coordinating Committee, Supervisor Bowman is the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Transportation and Coordinating Committee met here on June 13th. The quarterly reports were presented on ridership, and they were approved. Olivia Delikowski, who you saw earlier this evening, is doing marketing for the transportation and the ADRC, and she's doing an excellent job. We had a vehicle grant update, and the new van is in the corner of the parking lot out here if you'd like to see it. And it's quite a vehicle. It's a rear end loader, and make it a lot easier for the people that are driving it to get the wheelchairs aboard. They have an automatic lift on the back that lifts them up, and it's a great thing. And the Mobility Management Maritime Metro Transit has a new director, Kara Odom, who we met, and our next meeting is to be determined. Thank you very much.
Any questions for Supervisor Bowman? Thank you very much. Supervisor Banky, do you can announce anything about highway, I guess? And like I said, I apologize profusely once again for not having on the.
No, they're still out there yet, so. we're good
I
till
forgot
next
to
month.
tell you though, that since we didn't put it on the agenda, you lose your $100 for
Oh,
tonight.
man. We will take a collection this month.
Obviously teasing, but. Nothing?
Nothing, we're
Okay,
good.
thank you very much. Any other announcements? I just have one quick one, and we have an anniversary to celebrate today. Supervisor Vogt, and I hope I'm not going to embarrass you, but it's impressive. Married to his wife Sharon, 59 years today, and so congrats. And I wish I would known earlier. I would have had Supervisor Hanson prepare a nice song. It would have been pretty good. So, but yeah, well, that that says a lot. I don't want to go. I know everyone wants to get out of here, but everybody, our spouses they're with us. I mean, they understand. I mean, I don't know what I would have done over the last 20-some years with my spouse. Everybody understands that, but I digress. Anyways, anything else? Okay, I'll accept a motion to adjourn. Motion by Supervisor Hoffman, second by Supervisor Mink. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a safe trip home.